Welcome to a tag-along discussion. As you can see, I am sweating buckets because somebody forgot to turn on the air conditioner here. This guy over here. So
my question is, I'm in the same room as Bilal.
This guy spent a summer in Sudan.
How come there's no sweat on here?
Because this guy spent a summer in Sudan, and as a result, acclimated. And plus, he's been in Houston longer than I have.
Oh my God.
So
Umar ibn Khattab, he says, he said, toughen up because blessings don't last forever. You're not going to have AC all of your life.
It's not about AC.
You may have to go back.
Your windows are closed, bro.
You may have to go back
your
to
windows
a situation
are closed.
Where you basically need to toughen up.
That's not about
all those muscles, and you can't handle 80-degree weather.
80-degree weather. Oh man. Whatever, dude. Let's go. Let's get started.
Bismillah. Forgive the banter between myself and Bilal. This is basically how we are all the time. Alhamdulillah. So we are going over the name of Allah Azza wa Jal, AlQawee, appropriately. The strong.
AlQawee. AlQawee al-Mateen.
AlQawee, the strong. Are we going to do
Mateen next?
No, we're not.
Oh, come on.
But for now, we're going to be doing AlQawee, and maybe we'll do a Mateen, inshallah ta'ala, in the future. But AlQawee is narrated many times in the Quran. Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, Inna Allah qawiyyun shadidul iqab. For example, He says, Allah Azza wa Jal is strong, severe in His punishment. And in another verse in Surah Hud, Allah says, Inna rabbaka huwa al-qawiyyul aziz. Allah says, your Lord is Al-Qawi, the strong, the mighty. And lots of times, Al-Qawi is paired with Al-Aziz, the mighty.
Is Aziz the mighty, the one who has authority, or all of the above?
The mighty, the one with authority. I don't know if it carries the I guess they all carry the connotation of authority, but Allah knows best. I don't even know what you mean by that.
Because if you look back at وَإِذْ يَرْفَعُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ قَوَاعِدَ مِنَ الْبَيْتِ وَإِسْمَاعِيلَ, and you follow the verse, in the end he goes, وَإِذْ بَعَثَ فِيهِمْ رَسُولًا مِنْهُمْ يَتْلُو عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتٍ وَيُعَلِّمُهُمُ الْكِتَابَ وَالْحِكْمَةَ وَيُزَكِّيهِمْ. And then it concludes with إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ.
Okay, so that's before, when Ibrahim and Ismail are asking.
Yeah.
They say, oh our Lord, accept from us
the building of this foundation of this house. And then he makes the dua for their progeny to be from them as Muslims, and teach them manasik of Hajj, and to accept from them.
That's a very good question. I'm going to have to look into that. Okay. I don't know. So Al-Qawi is the one who overpowers. Al-Qawi is the one who overpowers, and that's why Al-Qawi and Al-Aziz, it's usually mentioned when they're paired. Al-Qahhar overpowers also, but Al-Qawi is speaking specifically about the strength of Allah Azza wa Jal.
Okay.
So Al-Qahhar is definitely overpowering. Al-Qawi, though, is quwwah. Quwwah is strength. Quwwah is power.
Okay.
And so recognizing that Allah Azza wa Jal has His attribute of being strong. And Allah Azza wa Jal, because of His strength, He overpowers everyone. And no matter how much people, ascend in their might and their power in human history, or even in the present, that Allah Azza wa Jal is over them, and Allah Azza wa Jal is stronger than all of them. And Allah Azza wa Jal, part of what is manifested by understanding this name of Allah Azza wa Jal is that person feels that no matter what obstacle they face, whether it's in the form of a human being or any other obstacle, that Allah Azza wa Jal, if Allah is supporting them, then they're not going to be outpowered, if that's a word, by anyone. Overpowered.
Yeah.
Overpowered by anybody. Right? Allah Azza wa Jal, He says, وَلَيَنْصُرُنَّ اللَّهَ مَنْ يَنْصُرُهُ وَلَيَنْصُرَنَّ اللَّهُ مَنْ يَنْصُرُهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَقَوِيٌّ عَزِيزٌ. Allah says, Allah Azza wa Jal, وَلَيَنْصُرَنَّ اللَّهُ. Allah Azza wa Jal will overpower Allah Azza wa Jal will support whoever supports Him. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَقَوِيٌّ عَزِيزٌ. Allah Azza wa Jal is truly strong and mighty. And Allah Azza wa Jal says in another verse, He says, إِن يَنْصُرْكُمُ اللَّهُ فَلَا غَالِبَ لَكُمْ. He says, if Allah is to support you, then there's no one who can ghalib. There's no one who can overpower you.
Okay.
And if Allah Azza wa Jal were to forsake you, then who's going to support you after Him? And upon Him let the believers rely. And so again, this notion that,
So it's directly tied to reliance.
It's directly tied to reliance, and it makes you put very, very, an equation very clearly in your mind. And that is that I have to make sure, as I'm seeking the support of everyone in the world, people for their projects and the things that they want to actualize in this world, they take the steps to seek the support of this person here or this organization there or what have you. But this verse reminds us that the most important entity, the most important aspect that you want to make sure that you are garnering the support of is Allah Azza wa Jal.
Yeah.
That is the most important factor in your equation.
Okay.
Also, from the benefits of understanding that Allah Azza wa Jal is qawi is seeking quwwah yourself. That Allah Azza wa Jal, He loves strength. Allah loves strength. Everybody knows the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ says that al-mu'min al-qawi, that the strong believer is more beloved to Allah Azza wa Jal than the weak believer. And in both of them are goodness. And so the strong believer. Now, what do you understand from the aspect of a strong believer? Muscles, right? Or a strong believer could be somebody.
I mean, it could be a lot of things, right? It's physical strength, it's spiritual strength, it's intellectual, mental strength, it's just forbearance.
Yep.
Hilmi.
Yep.
It's position.
All of that.
All of it, yeah.
All of that. So strength is patience, right? And forbearance is strength. And spiritual strength is strength.
I mean, going back even to the martial arts training factor, right? All crux of it is strength training, but at the end of the day, the character facet and the personal development factors that okay, you got all the strength, but you're not allowed to use it just like that.
Very good. Very good. So that self-restraint is strength. Also, and that's what the Prophet ﷺ, he said. He says the strong one isn't the one who can out-wrestle somebody, but the strong one is the one who can restrain themselves when they become angry. So he defines strength as being that. Also, strength when you're with regards to your commitment to the religion. Allah says, Ya Yahya, khudh al-kitaba biquwwa. He says, oh Yahya, hold on to this book with strength. And so, there is a strength that is needed for a person to simply just practice Islam. And then depending on their strength of their commitment and their resolve and their faith, they will practice at a higher level. Also, strength in seeking, in a beautiful, beautiful tradition of the Prophet ﷺ in Muslim. And if there was any hadith that I would put above my doorway, it would be this one. The Prophet ﷺ says, "Ihris ala," three things.
Okay.
He says, focus on what benefits you. "Ihris ala ma yanfa'uk." That's number one. Focus on what benefits you.
Okay.
And how many times have you read in self-help and stuff like that, the importance of clarity, right? So focus on what benefits you. وَاسْتَعِنْ بِاللَّهِ. And then seek the help of Allah. And then وَلَا تَعْجَزْ. Don't give up. These three things. Focus on what benefits you. And then after I've qualified and figured out what it is that I want, seek the help of Allah and get that support. And the third is, I don't stop. I don't quit. I don't give up. And then he can exactly perseverance. And then also don't say after that I did such and such, or if I had done such and such. Don't be someone who questions the things that you've done in the past. The Prophet ﷺ says, because once you say if, it opens up the doorway for shaitan. Rather just say whatever Allah Azza wa Jal wishes, He decrees.
Okay.
So that. Also, the type of strength that Allah Azza wa Jal does not love is a strength that leaves the person to be oppressive. Allah Azza wa Jal loves a strength that leads to justice. And so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, "La quddisat ummah, la quddisat ummah." May this ummah not be blessed or not be, blessed. A ummah in which the weak are not able to take their rights from the strong.
Okay.
So any ummah where the strong arm the weak, the Prophet ﷺ is declaring that or asking Allah Azza wa Jalla that it not be a ummah that is blessed.
Okay.
Right? And so
this it's interesting because this idea that I guess my question is Rasulullah referring to ummah as in Muslims specifically, or just anyone that is governing, Muslim or non-Muslim? Because if you think about it, it's the idea that Allah even blesses the people if they rule with justice, regardless of whether they're Muslim or not, right? And one of the things, if anything, as Muslims that we should be on the forefront of, advocating for what's right and just, especially here with the things that are going on, I think could be rooted right into that very basic principle.
Of course, and that's what Allah established the heavens and the earth on the mizan and on justice. And Allah Azza wa Jal commands us to be just, even if it is against ourselves and our family members. And the Prophet ﷺ, when he sent the early Muslims to flee from persecution. He sent them to Abyssinia, and the reason that he gave was because this king is just, even though he was non-Muslim. And Amr ibn al-As, when he praised the Romans, one of the things that he praised them was because of their justice. And so this is all
this is before he's Muslim.
No, this is after he was Muslim.
Okay.
And the Romans were not Muslim, but he's just mentioning the different things, the attributes that they have.
It reminds me of how when Heracles was questioning, was it Abu Sufyan? When and his thing was like, even he himself was like, I'm going to ask your people if you're lying or not.
Yeah.
Just that, even the very basic virtues of truth and justice is.
But Heracles was also a politician, and so what he did was he put Abu Sufyan in front of his companions, and he put his companions behind him.
Yeah.
And so he told them, he said, hey, if he lies, just give me a signal.
Okay.
And so Abu Sufyan doesn't see them.
He can't see them, yeah.
And so that's like, that shows you his cunning also, Heracles, or his experience.
Yeah.
And so he puts him in a position where he doesn't know. So the only thing that he can do is tell the truth. But just to conclude with regards to AlQawee, a few things. And that's number one, Allah Azza wa Jal recounts different times in which his strength became apparent for the believers. And so with regards to the Ahzab, when 10,000 people, the Battle of the Trench.
Oh, the Battle of the Trench, okay.
When an army, the likes of which the Arabian Peninsula had never been seen, was gathered to wipe Islam from the city of Medina and get rid of them once and for all. So much so that the Muslims resorted to a tactic that had not been seen in the Arabian Peninsula up until that point, which is the building of a trench. And they camped out and they couldn't cross the trench, and they camped out until finally Allah Azza wa Jal sent, after a month,
like a dust storm, right?
Allah sent a wind, severe wind, that kind of scattered their camps, their tents, and a number of things also happened at the same time. But basically, there was no like confrontation. Like there was a couple of arrows here and there.
It was a standoff that finally ended.
Exactly. It was a standoff that finally ended, and then they left. And so Allah Azza wa Jal, he says, وَكَفَ اللَّهُ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ الْقِتَالِ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ قَوِيًّا عَزِيزًا. Allah says, and Allah Azza wa Jal saved the Muslims from fighting, or he made it unnecessary. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ قَوِيًّا عَزِيزًا. And Allah Azza wa Jal was or is strong and mighty. And so this is like a showcase of Allah Azza wa Jal's power. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he taught Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, and this is incredibly important as well. He said, shall I not teach you about one of the treasures of paradise? And the Prophet, Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, was then told by the Prophet ﷺ to say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. To say that there's no source of power and no source of strength except for Allah Azza wa Jal.
That's a hadith?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Prophet ﷺ is telling him, say that. This is one of the treasures of paradise. And what that does is that it reminds you, that Allah Azza wa Jal is the source of all power.
Yeah.
In the moment where you feel weak, you say La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah.
I'm just also wondering, is there a linguistic relationship between AlQawee and Qayyum?
No.
No? Because sleep doesn't come over him. Because we said Allahu la ilaha illa huwal hayyul qayyum. No, there's not. It's just,
not that I know of.
Okay.
Not that I know of. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Khalid ibn Walid radiallahu anhu, when Khalid ibn Walid radiallahu anhu was leading the Muslims, and the Romans were like scattered locusts on the horizon.
Yeah.
It's anything that would capture the heart of anyone, right? That would take the heart of anyone. Khalid ibn Walid tells the Muslim soldiers, he says, حَوْقِلُوا يَا عِبَادَ اللَّهِ. He says, say la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Forget about what you see in front of you. Remind each other.
No other power.
There's no source of power except for Allah Azza wa Jal. And so you seek power knowing that Allah Azza wa Jal is the source of power, and you are empowered knowing that Allah Azza wa Jal is the powerful. And that's it with regards to AlQawee.
Cool. Any action items?
Learning La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, that's a very basic action item, and just practicing saying it, recognizing it. There's a reason why when the muaddin, for example, he says hayya ala salati, hayya ala falah, that's what you say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah, because you don't have a source of power. There's nothing that's going to propel you and take you to the masjid and make you respond to the call of the muaddin unless Allah Azza wa Jal is your source of power, right? You need to be charged up. So that, and then taking the steps that we mentioned so far. We mentioned a lot of them. Of them is focusing on what benefits you, and then seeking the help of Allah Azza wa Jal, making sure that you seek the help of Allah all the time. Once you depend on yourself, the Prophet ﷺ used to seek refuge in being left alone for the blinking of an eye. He didn't want to be left alone. He always wanted Allah Azza wa Jal's support. So being conscious of that all the time. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم كثيرا.